that shifted gears for you?
I remember the day well. I was sitting in, so I was a typical day where, as in the production world of Hollywood, I would go from meeting to meeting to meeting. So I'd be walking into a room full of people, and there would be a script that we all had to read, and there were notes that we were doing, or there would be a new pitch. And we had a writer by the name of Ed Solomon. And Ed, which I learned later, had just returned from a 2-week retreat where I don't believe he spoke. I think it was like silent for 2 weeks. Ed is somebody who is one of the top writers in town. When I was actually in college at UCLA, Ed had come and spoken about one of the movies he'd written. I believe it was, I wanted to say Big Trouble in Little China, but it might have been Men in Black, the first one. Ed is sitting in the midst of this maelstrom of activity where everybody's freaking out because we've got budget issues, we've got Will Smith, who's got a limited window for when he can make this movie. And we're all kind of spinning about, how do we get this done? What are we going to do? Everybody's kind of on a pitch of 9 out of 10. And there's Ed, who's calm. He's this kind of very handsome man with silver hair, white hair. And I'm like, what does he know that I don't know? Like, what is his secret? Because he is so calm, and he calmed everybody else down in the room, and had a wonderful meeting, and ended up writing such a terrific script to it. At the end of the meeting, I'm like, Ed, what's your secret? He said, I just actually returned from this retreat. I started asking him questions, and he's like, listen, if you seem to be interested in this, and I see the level of stress you're dealing with, would you be open to meeting my teacher, who is Shinzen Young? And I said, oh my God, I'd love to meet him. So he scheduled an appointment for Shinzen to come in. So he ends up, about 10 days later, Shinzen happened to be in town in LA, and they came to my office. And so Ed shows up with this 72-year-old Jewish man in a little fedora. I'm like, the picture did not match what my mind was going to be. And we closed the door in my office, and we sat down, and Shinzen just started asking me a couple questions. And I think what really resonated to me was he talked about mindfulness, and the way he described it to me was how in life, how we are so reactive, and that we respond with 3 different ways. We have a physical response, the way we feel. We have a visual response, the images that we see in our mind. And then we have an audio response, so that voice in our head. He says, when somebody cuts you off on the freeway, you feel, you react, you see red, and you hear in your mind. And he said, let's just ascribe a power of 10 to each one of those. You feel it's 10, you hear it's 10, you see it's 10. So that's 10 times 10 times 10. That's 1,000 pounds of energy coming down on you. And none of us can lift 1,000 pounds. So driver cuts you off and you react because that's you're conditioned to. And he says, all that mindfulness is that I wanted to say to you is, if you note, if you just are aware of what physiologically is happening to you, you feel that's 10, you hear that's 10, and you see that red, that's 10. Now that you've noted each one, they can't multiply off each other. So that becomes 10 plus 10 plus 10. That's 30 pounds, and we can all take 30 pounds and lift it aside and not react. So someone cuts you off and it's no, 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 and you can smile and you can move on with your day. And that was the first kind of metaphor that Shinzen had for me. It was very practical, and it was very logical, and it made sense. And it was not what I expected. I was waiting for the pebble that hits the pond and the ripples and grasshopper. I was waiting for this very metaphysical, magical thing. And this was very practical. I ended up sitting on my office floor, and Shinzen took me on for about 45 to an hour of just noting, what I was seeing, what I was seeing in, hearing, what I was hearing. He walked me through the basics, and I was hooked. I really got hooked at that point in time and began a wonderful relationship with Shinzen.